Dean Martin. You know, one thing's for sure, that's way too cool to be on Paul's iPod, right? No way.
Probably
All right,
not.
here's the safest bet that you can make about this weekend's Kentucky Derby. A lot of people watching the race are going to be sipping on bourbon.
But if you're under the impression that good bourbon only comes from the bluegrass state, it's time to pour yourself a glass of award-winning whiskey made here in Georgia. Good Day Atlanta's Paul Milliken is live at O4D Distillery in Atlanta. And Paul, the team there has really struck gold.
Absolutely. It's a really big deal. And by the way, Buck, you're wrong. I'm the leader of the Rat Pack of Fox 5. Now, I'm the leader and only member of that pack, but eventually I'm going to build up a fan base, I promise. Yeah, here's the thing, you guys. So if you've never been to Old Fourth Distillery before, whether or not you're a big drinker, whether or not you love vodka, gin, bourbon, this is such a fascinating place. It really is like a science laboratory that you can walk through and see the processes that turn into bottles like this. So back in 2014, the company launched with vodka, then it went to gin, then it went to their liqueur called Lawn Dart, and now it's all about bourbon. And there are a lot of misconceptions and myths surrounding bourbon. So we did a little investigative reporting to find out the truth. From the gleaming copper still to the shiny silver nozzles, the spirit of old Atlanta flows through every inch of Old Fourth Distillery. When it opened in 2014, it continued a tradition cut short by prohibition.
We're the first distillery in Atlanta since 1906. We started with vodka in 2014. We launched our gin in 2015 and since have launched a Lawn Dart product.
Now the team here is uncapping something truly American and truly Southern, its own bourbon.
It's probably the first 4-year Georgia-aged bourbon in over 100 years.
Wow. Now, we know what you're thinking. Bourbon's only made in Kentucky, right? Turns out that's a myth. But there are some very strict rules when it comes to barreling a bourbon. And distillery co-founder Craig Moore is now an expert.
It has to be made according to the laws and regulations in the United States. The mash that you make the alcohol from, the fermentation, has to be at least 51% corn. Also, contrary to popular belief, there's actually no time limit. So the liquid can sit in a new American white oak barrel, that's one of the rules, that's charred on the inside for literally a day, and you could technically legally call it bourbon.
Don't worry, the bourbon here has been aging for more than a day. In fact, it's been 4 years in the making. This is barrel number 1, filled up back in 2015. Team members say, yes, it was a long wait getting these bottles on shelves, but considering the city waited more than 100 years for another distillery, maybe 4 isn't that hard to swallow. All right, and back out here live. It looks like you are looking into a washing machine. That is not what's going on. So actually right now the company is making vodka, and this is really kind of cool to watch. So it's boiling in this still right now. What's happening is it boils, the vapor rises up, it goes through the stainless steel tubes here, and it ends up in this still where it actually is condensing. So this is where my meteorological training really comes in handy, because I can tell you as a true expert that what's happening is basically it's raining vodka. It's condensing thanks to cold air up there, and then it rains back down again. So that's why I love meteorology. That's why I went into meteorology, so I could find out how to make vodka rain. And and speaking of that, I've got good news too. So I told Ron earlier I'd be bringing him back a bottle of this bourbon, right? Sharon, I'm going to bring you back some bourbon too. But speaking of being an expert and making things, Buck, I've decided to start making some moonshine in my bathtub, and you're going to get the first case of that. So I can't wait for you to try it. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, you cannot fight alliteration. Bourbon with Buck. You can't beat it.
Goodness.
No. We already decided it's bourbon for breakfast with your boy, Paul Milliken. All right, it doesn't quite work.
Emphasis on boy. Emphasis on boy. All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a lot.
Looking forward to that.
You can visit Old Fourth Distillery at 487 Edgewood Avenue Southeast in Atlanta. Tours and tastings are available on Thursdays and Fridays from 5 to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 7, and the cost is $10 per adult.